Well, okay. Here's my answer. Obviously there's spheres of authority, right? It is not linear. This isn't the Middle Ages, and we don't have the divine right of kings, and it doesn't go down. That's not how it works in reality. It's not, nor how it should work. That's not how the Bible is. I've heard good sermons on this from good godly teachers about, you have your family sphere, you have your government sphere, you have your church sphere, and how they overlap and interact, right? So obviously, it's not linear. You have certain things that the father is meant to have authority over in the house, right? But there's room for the church to have some authority over that father and over the wife and over the children, and it kind of mixes and works together, I think, in a good synergistic fashion. You need to sit down again and really wrestle with Scripture and really think about where are the lines, right? Because sometimes there are lines. There's certain things that you might just disagree with, and other things that are more a matter of sin and you have to rebuke on, right? Like, the pastor might look at a family in his church and say, well, they don't make the most healthy choices. But it's not necessarily a sin issue. But then if it turns into a sin issue, well, then there's room to step in and rebuke and say, look, I want to speak truth into your life and identify the sin that needs to be dealt with in your family and in your life, right? So I'm no Bible teacher, right? I understand theology and I appreciate it and I love it, especially for how it influences my work as a Christian lawyer. But no, I think that's important to really think about. Where does the government's authority end and where does the church's authority begin? Obviously the government does not have authority over the terms of worship, right? Over how we gather, when we gather, who we gather with, whether we sing or not, what we preach about, whether we preach with a mask, with our face covered or not, right? Like the church has no authority over that, right? The church is the bride of Christ. He has authority over it, nobody else, right? So if you don't understand spheres of authority, the delineation of authority, where it ends and begins, that's a problem, right? So yeah, that needs to be thought about, that needs to be worked through, and we need to get rid of these naive, childish ideas of a linear authority. We need to develop our thinking. We need to be like Paul says and start chewing on spiritual meat and stop sucking on spiritual milk. It's time to grow up. It's time to grow up. Be adults and stop being so simplistic in your thinking, right? In the Old Testament, in the wisdom books, being a simpleton is derided. We are not called to be simple thinkers. As Christians, we are called to be deep, powerful, critical thinkers, because God's gave us a mind and He expects us to use it. Love the Lord your God with all your mind and reason about these things. Reason about what the role of government is, the role of church, and but whether or not the church should speak into the policy decisions the government is making. They should, right? That's the thing, right? We're going to talk about separation of church and state. The state has no authority or role over how the church functions. The church does and should speak into and influence the choices of government, right? Because government is naturally going to tend towards evil if it doesn't have a good voice speaking into it. That's the role of the church. And part of the reason I think governments have become so corrupt and embraced evil and have become so unprincipled is because they don't have godly counsel coming from strong, biblically rooted Christian churches and pastors speaking into them and giving them wise, moral, godly, truthful counsel about how to run things and make things better and implement justice and avoid injustice. They don't have that because we've abdicated from doing that, right? And if you don't have a proper understanding of the spheres of authority and the directions for which counsel and influence goes, then that's what you get.